My name is Jesse Riding. I'm going to be tying a fly today, or right now called the Spidey sense. It's of my design. Spiders are one of those patterns that aren't used very often, but can be really deadly, and they're a versatile. It's a versatile pattern as well. It's a pattern that you can use for different species. You can catch trout on it. You can also do a lot of panfish and bass used in a spider pattern as well. You can tie this pattern in a variety of different attractor type colors: yellow, whites, oranges, all kinds of things. Even black to be a little bit more realistic, or brown or something like that. I'm going to tie a black one today. I find black is far more versatile for trout and warm water species. I tie this pattern on a scud hook, a size 12 scud hook. It offers the shank that I want, the curved shank, so that when I tie this body on, it actually dips into the water a little bit, and it increases hookups on the fish. So I'll put a scud hook in size 12, and I'm going to use black 6/0 thread. And the first thing that we're going to do here is just simply make a thread base. And I'm not going to do a comprehensive thread base because the legs go on here in 1 second. So I'm going to start with the thread base and come back to almost to the eye. Now, as you know, spiders have 8 legs, and a lot of spider patterns don't necessarily have 8 legs. This was something that I really wanted to make sure was on my pattern to have a lot of legs, specifically 8. And so the way I do this is I use black silly legs. This is a black silly leg with a little bit of a red sparkle in it. You could use just a complementary color to whatever spider pattern you're tying. And what I do is the front leg and the front 2 legs and the back 2 legs are the same piece of rubber. So simply I just tie one on, and I secure that with some depth to it. And then I'm going to put one on opposite side. Make sure that there's proper length coming off each side. And I can then hold these 2 pieces together. They're right now cradling each side of the shank, and I can just wrap that to keep them on both sides of the shank. And I can wrap them all the way back to where I want them to end, which is about where I stopped my thread base. And as you can see, I can make that last wrap kind of tight. It'll fork them out. And then I'm going to wrap back to the front. And there's a reason I started really close to the front, is because in order to get these down properly, you have to do likewise, but you have to wrap left-handed if you're right-handed in this case. And I'm going to wrap almost to the eye. I need to leave a little bit on each side. What helps to fork these out also will be that eye. So we don't want to wrap all the way down to the eye. We want to wrap just shy of it. Like so. This pattern will also have some eyes on it, and I always like putting the eyes on first so that you know where to stop the rest of your body. I grab those. I'm going to use some bug eyes. Put those on and just wrap a couple of wraps to secure that. Then I can let go with my pull those tight. Anchor it every once in a while to the shank and just do a nice figure 8 wraps around those eyes and make sure it's tight. Once you've done that, in order to make this so it doesn't spin so easily, there's a little trick you can do, and that's simply just wrapping in a halo fashion, like as if you're tying a parachute around those wraps, and pull tight every once in a while so you don't break your thread. But that tightens the figure 8 that you just tied to make it so it doesn't want to spin as easily. Now we've got two rear legs, 2 front legs, and an eye. Now the body for this is actually going to be tied on right in the center here. So I'm going to wrap right to the middle of the shank, and now we can prepare our body. In this case, like I said, I'm using black. I prefer to use the Rainey's Evizote in 1/8 inch for this fly. This, you could use orange or yellow or whatever it is. I prefer to use the Evizote because it's a softer open cell foam for flotation. Spider patterns are definitely need to float, and so I prefer to use a foam for the body of this. I've gone ahead and cut a small piece of foam, a strip of it that's about 3/8 inch wide, and there's some slight preparation in this fly. And so the first thing I'll do is, once I have this, I'm just going to trim off and knock off 2 corners of the back, or what's going to eventually be the butt of the spider. The next thing I do is I'm going to come in here, finish that, And I'm going to actually make another cut that comes in at the same angles as if it was going to be making a round piece. So I made a little slice in there like so. Then I'm just going to go ahead and finish trimming up. I'm going to trim up this right to that spot and then tear it out. So now we've got the start of a kind of a round body. Likewise, I'm going to come over to this side and make a cut. You can see that opens up, and I'm going to come up and strip that. And there's purpose to this. And whenever I do this, I never cut too far up, because then you'll create seams and tear points. So you want to cut just shy and then tear out the excess. It works better. So now I've got a body that looks like this. This is going to end up being the butt of the spider, and this is going to be used to actually make a little bit of the thorax portion and match the color of the fly, and actually be a handle to pull it tight. Now, foam is good to work with, and as you can see, that's a lot of rough cuts. There's a really good way to make sure a lot of rough cuts really smooth, and that's by using a cigarette lighter. I use a quick lighter so it doesn't heat up, and I just run a little bit on it, and then use your fingers to shape. This is not hot to the touch, but it just starts melting it a little bit. It starts making it so all of those cuts that we just made round themselves off a little bit. And as you touch it with your finger, it makes it kind of have a dull finish to it, and you can make that body a little bit more pleasing and rounded in shape. So once we've done that, we simply just come up here, and that's the butt of the spider, and we're going to tie on right where that neck starts. And that's the main secure point for the spider. Now, in order to help to make this fly float as much as possible, I wanted it not only to have foam, but I wanted to put some hackle on it as well. And so I'm going to actually continue tying forward a little bit and crush a little bit more of this foam so that I have a spot where I can tie in some additional set of legs on each side, as well as put some hackle. I'm going to tie back to the midsection of that. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and put the legs on, because I want to hackle through the legs. So there's a set of legs on that side that come out in a V. Come on the back side. Put in another set of legs there. Now we have our 8 legs. We have 4 coming off of each side. Once that's done, it's simple to use saddle hackle. And in this case, I'm actually going to follow the rule of dry fly hackle, and I've already had pre-sized this hackle. This is saddle, so I can use it for multiple flies as I work up. But I've pre-sized it to be just a little over the size of the gap, about 1.5 times the gap, so that when it fishes out in the water, it's actually gonna want to help with the flotation. This is nice premium dry fly hackle. So I come in here and tie hackle in just to place, and I'm making sure that I'm still tying in between those rubber legs that I've tied. My tie-off point is going to be in the same body segment, so I can leave my thread where it is. I simply just make sure I'm wrapping the hackle within this segment, and I'm going to slowly work my way forward. It's hard to tell right now, but as you remember, I created a little bit more space there, even though the foam is sticking straight up and kind of crowding that. I can still work my way forward and make sure I'm going in between those 2 rubber legs. Okay. 4 or 5 wraps in there, and then I can tie off. I'm moving my thread around so that it doesn't crush any of those hackle barbels. Once that's 2 wraps there secure, I can trim off the excess of that hackle and use it for the next one. Like so. So I've got legs coming off of each side. Everything looks good. The next thing I want to do is to pull all the legs back except the front ones and move my thread. You simply just move it in front of the eyes like that. And then this is why we have this sticking out, is we actually put a little foam in front of it to make it have a nicer finish to it. So those figure 8 wraps that we just wrapped and secured those eyes with are going to be covered with a little bit of foam. In this case, it's almost completely crushed, although it's not going to add to any flotation, but it's simply going to cover up those wraps. I'm going to pull the whole fly back. Finish there. I'm going to use my whip finish to tie off. Pull the materials back. Tie the fly off. Trim off the excess thread. Pull really, really tight with this, and if I trim it down really far, the foam will actually suck down in a little bit and it won't cover anything. Make sure the legs are all situated properly and they look good. And there's 2 more steps left. One is just to make sure all the legs are the right length you want, and they all just need to kind of match each other. You can't really pull them together, but you can kind of just decide on how much they're going to come off. Now you've got an 8-legged spider like they're supposed to. And there's just one more thing that I actually do on this fly, and it's a black, and that is it's so hard to see in the water. It's black. No matter how big the fly this is, when you cast it out there 30 feet, you're not going to be able to see it very well. And so on black specifically, I just take a little bit of popper paint, or you could use any acrylic paint. Orange is one of my favorite colors to use. And I'll just take a paintbrush, dab it in there a little bit, and I'm just going to put a drop of orange paint, try not to get it in the hackle, right on the back side of this body. Get a little bit more so I can get a nice droplet. Like so. And so when that's out in the water, I'll be able to see it a little bit easier, kind of a strike indicator into the fly, if you will. And that is the Spidey sense. Again, you can do it in a variety of different colors and have fun. As you can see, the shank is going to hang down in the water. The body's kind of up at an angle, so that means that's going to be true, and the hook's going to hang down in the water just a little bit to help with hookups on whether you're catching trout or panfish of any kind.